Hi everybody. I just got done playing the next 1,000 hands for the diary, so let's just get straight into it. I've got something slightly different planned. I've got 5 hands instead of 4, because well, you'll see why. There's a theme that happens. So, first hand we open aces, and we get a call from the big blind who seems fairly fishy. Because looking at these stats, there's a wide VPIP PFR, so we can expect some fishy plays. Flop top set. And I think because on this kind of board, cutoff versus big blind defense, we have an overwhelming range advantage here. We have all the sets, he can't have aces. We have all the top pairs, good kickers, he can't. So we should see bet a third with our entire range. He calls C8, turned 8, and he checks. Now, having aces here, we block so many top pairs, and the 8 pairing means he can't really have trips very often either. So all he can have are flush draws. That would continue, but everything else would just fold, like, lower pairs, that kind of stuff. So I don't mind either a bet or a check, knowing that you should check here sometimes because you just block so much. Also, having a check like this in your check range means that obviously you can't get bluffed on rivers effectively. So there is that. Shouldn't really put too much weight into balance when versus someone this fishy, but it's good to do sometimes. So I don't mind the check. Could also bet. It's fine. The 9 of spades rolls off, which is pretty good because if he had a flush draw, he got there, and we'll put some money in. He ends up betting a half pot, and we obviously have to raise, but how much? I decide on a little bit of a small raise, 36 cents. It's 3x's bet. The small raise is to entice flushes to call because it's a paired board, and generally when it's a paired board, you should be raising smaller anyway, because like total hands that he could have when you have value, like aces, is just so low because you block everything. And hands like flushes are less incentivized to call big bets because they should be afraid of full houses. So for all those reasons, I like a small raise. He ends up making a min 3 bet, which I think is quite funny. He's basically saying he has a boat or quads, and against that range, and a few overvalued flushes as well, and against a full house, quads, and flushes that might overvalue. I'm basically mainly targeting full houses and quads. I should just get it in because I beat most of the full houses, like ace 8 and 9 8, and I lose to one combo of 8s. So overall, we should jam and hope to get called by a worse full house. If he's bad as well, he might even call like king queen of spades. But in any case, he calls, and he had 9 8 off, which is very nice. That's one of the full houses that we beat, and we pick up a nice buy-in there. Okay, the second hand. This is one where we just lose a ton of chips, and it happens in a fairly standard way, unfortunately. Nothing really spicy happens. He raises, we 3-bet the big blind, 4x with ace king. He just 4-bet rips it in, and we've only played 17 hands, but he seems fairly fishy. Generally, when you're just facing a jam like this, you should just call with ace king because you're ahead of the jamming range. The jamming range will consist of hands like queens, maybe kings, jacks, tens, ace king itself, ace queen, and then if he's an absolute whale, he could have a bunch of other random hands as well. So against everything, you just have to call, which we do. And unfortunately, we actually run into 8-7 suited, so we lose to the pair of 8s on the flop. We were 60% pre, and end up losing that one out. Okay, the third hand. We open, someone limps and we ISO them to 6x, and we get 3-bet, which is awesome when we have aces. Folds back to me, and I should 4-bet. 4-bet to this size seems completely fine. Maybe a bit bigger because he made because I raised 12, which is already a large ISO, and you see a 3-bet. You could either jam, but jamming just polarizes your range so much, and I feel like it's easy for him to fold anything that's not kings. So make a small 4-bet is fine in my eyes. He ends up just ripping it in, and we're obviously happy to call, and then he shows us kings, and we just end up holding. So a nice cooler that goes in my way that time. Fourth hand, we've got aces once again. Button min opens. We make a 3-bet from the small blind to 4.5x, and he ends up making the call. Jack 9-3, because we 3-bet from the small blind, we should have the range advantage, so we just bet a third pot with our entire range, which we do, and we end up getting min raised. So the min raise from a kind of fishy player only played 8 hands, but because he min opened and then he just min raised his flop bet, which no reasonable player should do. Whenever you see this min raise, it's likely to be like ace jack, king jack, queen jack, basically like top pair hands, and then flush draws and straight draws, and obviously jacks, nines, and threes as well, and jack 9. So it's got all the value, but he does have a lot of top pair which we beat, and a lot of draws which we beat as well. There might be an argument for 3-betting the flop, but from a range perspective, there's not a lot of hands you want to 3-bet here, so I think it's simpler and a lot easier to play to just keep it as a call, which we do. Queen on the turn it's not great, but it's not bad either. Like Queen 10 improves to top pair, Queen Jack improves to top 2 pair, Queen X of spades now improves to a pair and a flush draw, and then 10-8 as well if he had that now gets there. So a lot of hands get there. And we check, and he just jams. So this kind of sucks. He has jacks, nines, threes, jack 9, and 10-8. And that's a lot of hands that we lose to. However, if he's slightly fishy, and you think he might do this with ace jack and king jack as well, which I can definitely see, and I don't really see this with queen 10, I'm not going to lie. But then I also see it with combo draws like 4-3 of spades and queen x of spades and maybe other flush draws as well. It really sucks that we have the ace of spades, but I still think that we should call because this player just has a fairly wide range anyway. And to be honest, he might just be punting. Who knows? So we end up making the call, and he shows us queen 2 of spades. So we were sweating a 70-30 on the turn. Luckily for us, we hold that one. And finally, the very last hand, we've got aces again. We open the button. We get 3-bet from the small blind, who seems a bit aggro. He's got a fairly high 3-bet stat. Over a small sample, granted, but still. 3-betting 5 out of 31 hands is fairly aggro. So we should just 4-bet here as a default, which we do. Size is fine. And we see a call. So we're going to go with a 4-bet pot to the flop. 10-3 deuce. He checks, and I mentioned this in an earlier video actually. When in the 4-bet pot, even whether you're in position or out of position, I think you should just continue with your entire range with a quarter pot. It's a pretty nice way to play it, and makes things easy, and you don't lose much EV at all from it compared to a GTO strategy. So bet a quarter pot here with aces, kings, queens, ace, king, and then maybe some bluffs that I have as well. We see a call, and the king is kind of a good card because now his ace, king floats improved to top pair, top kicker, which we'll have to call off probably. But also kind of bad because kings now makes top set. In any case, he checks, and we've got no other option here but to jam and hope to get called by ace, king, or queens and jacks. So we do, and we do get called by ace, king. This little funny animation, by the way, means that we've ran it twice. So the first ball was a 9, the second ball was a jack, so we scoop both pots, both boards. It's kind of funny, you don't really see the run it twice option a lot. I always have it enabled, but because of the new cash out feature that Stars introduced, a lot of fish don't run it twice and they decide to cash out instead. So, it is what it is. Those were all the 5 hands, and as you can see, 4 of them, and actually all the ones that I won, were big pots with aces. Obviously I didn't plan it, it's just how the last 1,000 hands happened, but aces being the main money-making hand is pretty nice. Kind of funny. If you look at the session overall, the sessions over the last 1,000 hands, we ended up running it up pretty huge towards the end in the last 300 hands or so, 200, 300 hands, because we won a little bit, won about a buy-in, and then we just all of a sudden just ramp it up, ramp it up. If I zoom out to all the hands that we've played so far, we actually get out of the downswing and get back to a number that we are pretty happy to see, up almost 10 buy-ins, up almost $20. We actually hit the $20 before losing a small pot towards the end, well, a medium pot of a half a buy-in is no laughing matter. But yeah, it's really nice to get back to the $20, and it actually increases our big blind rate from, I believe it was around 10 big blinds per 100 to 15 big blinds per 100 now, which is fantastic. Yep, we're still donating a lot of rake. I got my first cashback a while ago. I'm not sure if I told you last video, but just gonna say it again in case I didn't. I got the cashback of around 75 cents from stars from my first chest, so about 10% rake back. You know, it's not the greatest rake back, but we'll have to make do. Also, this last session we just played here has an absolutely wild standard deviation. Like, this session was swingy as fuck. Like, this is insane. There's so much variance. Probably included hands like the ace-king versus 8-7 suited, and then the aces versus the queen-deuce suited, and, you know, just craziness. So, anyway, I'll hope to play 1,000 hands soon, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.